a lot more people are going to prison than Steve Bannon.
Particularly DOJ and CIA. I think that's right. That's where the power is. That's where the guns are. That's where the budgets are. So to War Room, your show, which has been very successful and is very influential, can you have any effect on it from prison? Have you figured out a way to get your voice out?
Well, you can't run your businesses from a federal prison, but I'll stay in touch with the people all day long. I have a great team, and I've told them. And yes, and certain other guys hopefully will play by the rules a little bit better. But no, I tell the men and women on my team, it's time to step up. It's like at Normandy, we just commemorated the 80th anniversary. The people on the first wave, half of them didn't get up to the bulwark on the beach. They were gone. It was next man up. The only reason they got off that beach is next man up. American history is built upon next man up. You can leave. You're going to lose your best people. You're going to lose your good people. You lose the people in leadership. You'll lose the people at the front of the phalanx. You got to pick up the armor. You got to pick up the spear and do it yourself. This is going to be a very good exercise for us. I got to tell people, and I say it all the time, you can't lean. There's too much pressure on Trump. You can't lean on Trump all the time. You can't lean on Tucker Carlson. You can't lean on Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, who named 20, 50, 30, 40, James O'Keefe. You can't lean on them. You have to step up and do it yourself. That's what a populist revolt's about. And what they think is that's an old school model. If I can take out Trump, if I can take out Tucker, if I can take out Rudy, if I can take out Alex Jones, if I can take out Steve Bannon and cause the rest of them to all be worried about being debanked and deplatformed and spin their wheels there, they win. This is going to be a challenge to show if we win. President Trump, Donald J. Trump on the 11th of January, if you think it's over the top that Steve Bannon for misdemeanors is going to a federal prison, Donald Trump, a guy that gave us 4 years of peace and prosperity, or at least 3 years of peace and prosperity, Biden, he's going to be sentenced to years at Rikers Island. Now, they're going to defer it or give him home arrest or make him a supplicant to Judge Merchant so that he can go, campaign to a limited degree. But they're in a court in New York State are going to sentence a man who is president of the United States and gave us 3 of the best years of any president in this republic's history, sentence him to prison on a case that's actually 10 times bigger joke than mine is. So don't think if they come for Trump and sentence Trump to prison with the billions he has and the contacts he has and the fact that he's been commander in chief and president and pretty damn successful, they can come for anybody. You don't think they can put anybody in prison? And right now, if you see what's happening in New York State and California and some of these states and cities, the great cities like Chicago, with what they have running those cities, the folks they got running it, you better be prepared. There's going to be a lot more people than Donald Trump and Steve Bannon go to prison unless we stop it now. And that's why when you have people like John Yoo and Andy McCarthy, particularly John Yoo, who's no fan of President Trump and certainly not MAGA, when a guy like that is as smart as that and reason, when he comes out in National Review, which is also not, as you know, a big Trump supporting, big MAGA supporting magazine, when he comes out and literally lays out, says we have a constitutional duty, attorney generals and DAs in the House to get in these Democrats' face and start indicting people. He says, if we don't do that, the balance of the Constitution will be totally gone. We're going to lose the country. So when a guy like John Yoo and then backed up by Andy McCarthy, when those guys are saying that over at National Review, you realize we've hit a tripwire.
So is there a point at which, in the case of President Trump, where the case is so absurd and the penalties are a mockery of justice that you just say, I'm not participating, like, come and get me. I'm not playing your games. I'm going to run for president, as is my right as an American, and be heard as is my right. Like, I'm not playing along.
I think we may be there on the afternoon of July 11th. I mean, I think people got to take a very deep consideration of this. I think it's a gut check. And I think people have to look, and particularly, I think it's very important. That's why you and McCarthy and others like that, or Matt Walsh and even Rich Lowry, other people who have never been big MAGA supporters, are now realizing this republic, we're right there right now. And I think it's going to be a gut check, and I think people got to be very reflective. But on the afternoon of July 11th, if President Trump gets a multi-year prison sentence and is put on hold, maybe for his appeal, but put on hold for some time to give him home release, or somehow they put restrictions on his ability to actually go out and campaign, people got to start asking some very deep questions, because The thing in New York was the show trial like Moscow in the 1930s. And if we're going to allow that to continue, people have to ask very deep questions. So I think we're heading towards a constitutional crisis this country's never had before.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I think I'm going to prison. They want to send me to prison in July to make sure that I think some of the strongest or more aggressive of President Trump's advocates are taken off the playing field.
I think that's right. At some point, you just have to say no. Last question. So you've got 4 months you're facing. What do you plan to do with that time? Like, what are you going to read? What are you going to spend your time doing in prison?
Well, I have a pretty strict regimen as is, so I'll continue on. I do a lot of spiritual exercises following St. Ignatius Loyola, different spiritual exercises that come out of the Catholic Church. Although I would actually say, if you look at our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would call myself a pre-Christian. I wouldn't want to insult his name by saying I'm a Christian, given
I know the feeling.
the very tough and high standards. So no, that issue, and I read a lot. I study a lot. I try to study every different type of thing that comes up that I am very curious. So that won't be a problem. I'll also communicate with my team and other people on the outside within prison regulations, whatever those regulations are. So I'll be fully occupied. I'm proud to work 18 hours a day. I have nothing else in my life going on except this, so it won't stop. And we'll just continue to press on. I've told my team there can't be one drop in quality. There can't be one drop in audience participation or impact. And so it's on my team to do it. And I'll hopefully be in communication with those guys, but I'm very confident we build a team up here that will continue on. Like I tell them, it's next man up. You don't know if Tucker Carlson is going to be there tomorrow or you're going to be rounded up. Yeah. You don't know if President Trump's going to be, by the way, they could remand him to Rikers that afternoon. I think it'd be incredibly foolish. And obviously a stretch even for those crazies, but Trump could be remanded to prison that afternoon. In fact, if you look at Tish James and Rachel Maddow and those people that we'll all investigate when we take power as their participation in this. If you look at Weissman, those guys, they want him remanded on the afternoon of July 11th. They don't want him to go to the Republican convention, stand on that stage and before the world take the nomination that was so hard fought for and really stand up and get it on with Biden one-on-one, which I think right now this thing will be a blowout. So, no, they're playing smash. Look at Rudy Giuliani, one of the greatest mayors we've ever had, one of the greatest Americans and just an amazing guy. To bankrupt him, they want to jail him. I think he's got sentences out there, potential of 30 or 40, 50 years. Tina Peters, a Gold Star mother from Colorado. I think she's looking at prison time on multiple felonies of, I think, 20 or 30 years. The 75-year-old grandmother they just put in prison last week, gave her 2 years in ill health at 75 years old, gave her 2 years in a federal prison. So these people won't stop at anything. Whether you're a religious, right now you're a religious individual, whether you go to a traditional Catholic mass church, and that in Richmond, the FBI, the Richmond office, that was the church my parents started, that they started looking at. My parents were very devout Catholics, and as soon as they were able to start a Latin mass back in the 70s in the diocese, they took a couple of the priests out of the monastery and they formed a Latin mass. That was one of the churches that was the one that gave the guys in the Richmond field office, because it's a very traditional, very blue collar, tons of kids going to the military, go to the academies, but really enlist in the Marine Corps and the Navy and the Army. And that's what the FBI is going after. They're saying that they're building political extremists, that this is where extremism is coming from. Your government has turned against you, not our country, the government. This illegitimate regime has taken over the apparatus of the United States government and is enforcing dictatorial power. And we have to stand up for it, just like the revolutionary generation stood up to the dictatorial power of the crown and people like the British East India Company.
What they hate most is Christianity, for sure. Well, you're a brave and magnanimous man, and so God bless you. Good luck.
Tucker, thanks. Look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Oof.